Do not dismiss what you are feeling today, because the atmosphere surrounding this moment is unlike an ordinary astrological update. This is not another passing forecast that disappears the moment you close a horoscope app. Today, July 4th, marks the beginning of a sequence so intense that its influence is already weaving itself through your thoughts before you are even fully aware of it. Something extraordinary is taking shape overhead, and whether you recognize it or not, its echo is already reaching into your inner world. At exactly 3 degrees and 52 minutes of Gemini, Mars comes together with Uranus in an exact conjunction. This is not a gentle blending of energies. It is the meeting of two forces that refuse to remain quiet. Mars carries the fire of movement, determination, courage, and decisive action. Uranus carries the electricity of revolution, sudden realization, liberation, and unpredictable change. When these two powers unite within Gemini, the zodiac sign governing the mind, communication, perception, learning, and the nervous system, transformation does not arrive slowly. It erupts without warning. The familiar patterns you have relied upon can dissolve in a single instant, making room for an entirely different way of thinking and living. Moments like this have the capacity to rewrite chapters of a person's life over the course of one weekend, rather than through months of gradual progress. And that is exactly why today deserves your full attention. What makes this period even more remarkable is that the conjunction itself is only the opening movement of a much greater celestial design. Hidden behind the obvious headline is a sequence that unfolds across the next 48 hours, one that many people overlook because they focus only on the first event. Mars will continue its journey by forming powerful connections with all three outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, creating a rare geometric configuration that has not appeared for generations. This is not simply another collection of planetary aspects. It is a coordinated chain of activation, each contact building upon the previous one, each one carrying the story further than the last. For 3 particular zodiac signs, the experience extends far beyond ordinary change. What approaches has the potential to feel like a dramatic awakening, as though the universe itself reaches into your life, removes every distraction, and demands that you finally see what has been hidden in plain sight. If the past week has left you feeling unusually restless, if your body has carried an unexplained current of nervous energy, if your thoughts have refused to settle into their usual rhythm, or if an invisible pressure has seemed to build beneath the surface of your everyday life, there is a reason these sensations have intensified now. They are not appearing without purpose. There is a specific astrological explanation for why your inner world feels so charged at this very moment. And understanding that reason changes the way you experience everything that follows. Before that explanation can fully make sense, however, it is important to understand exactly what is unfolding in the heavens today, because this is one of those rare moments when attempting to ignore the energy may prove impossible. Imagine the sky not as a quiet backdrop, but as a living field of immense forces moving into direct contact with one another. Many people hear the word conjunction and picture 2 planets sitting side by side. That description barely scratches the surface. Saying that is almost like describing lightning as nothing more than a tiny flash of light. The reality is far more dynamic. The alignment occurring today represents the collision of powerful archetypal energies, so volatile and so transformational that astrologers have anticipated this date for years. Mars embodies initiative, bravery, instinct, and the willingness to move forward despite uncertainty. It is the force that cuts through hesitation and replaces doubt with decisive motion. Uranus represents disruption, awakening, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of freedom. It does not politely invite change into your life. It removes whatever stands in the way, often before you believe you are ready. When these planets unite in an exact conjunction, as they do today at 2 during the night, the resulting energy becomes intensely electric. It functions like a cosmic ignition point, releasing momentum that can no longer remain contained. Because this conjunction occurs in Gemini, the zodiac sign connected with your thoughts, your nervous system, your conversations, your ability to process information, and the networks through which knowledge travels. The greatest impact is not happening somewhere far beyond your reach. It is taking place within your own consciousness. Your thinking may suddenly accelerate. Connections that once seemed unrelated may instantly reveal a larger pattern. Questions that have lingered unanswered for weeks or even months can suddenly resolve themselves with astonishing clarity. It may feel as though scattered pieces of an enormous puzzle abruptly locked together, revealing a picture you never expected to see. Yet there is another side to Uranus that cannot be ignored. This planet has little interest in preserving comfort simply because it feels familiar. It does not protect routines merely because they are predictable. Its deeper purpose is liberation. Whenever something in your life has become too restrictive, whether it is an outdated belief, a relationship that no longer reflects your growth, a personal identity that has become too small, or any circumstance that quietly limits your evolution, today's conjunction possesses the power to break those barriers apart without first asking whether you feel prepared. The release may feel sudden, but its roots have been developing beneath the surface for much longer than you realize. Even so, the conjunction is not the final destination. It is only the spark that lights a much larger sequence. The events that unfold afterward deserve equal attention because they determine where all of this energy ultimately leads. Across the next 48 hours, an extraordinary chain reaction develops, one capable of shaping the remainder of this decade in deeply meaningful ways. The conjunction between Mars and Uranus serves as the opening domino. It delivers the initial shock, the first awakening, the powerful interruption that demands your awareness. Approximately 18 hours later, during the evening of July 4th, Mars forms an exact sextile with Neptune in Aries. At this stage, something remarkable occurs. The intense electrical charge created by the conjunction begins to organize itself. What first appeared chaotic starts revealing direction. The raw disruption begins transforming into inspiration. The emotional turbulence gradually uncovers a deeper sense of purpose. Ideas that seemed impossible suddenly appear attainable. Confusion begins giving way to vision. What initially felt like random upheaval starts resembling a carefully orchestrated step along your personal path. Then, by the morning of July 5th, Mars completes an exact trine with Pluto in Aquarius, bringing the sequence to its most consequential stage. This final aspect does not simply increase the strength of everything that came before, it anchors it. It establishes permanence. The realizations born from the conjunction, strengthened through Neptune's vision, now become rooted through Pluto's transformative power. Whatever truth emerges during this narrow window has the potential to reshape your reality at its deepest foundation rather than fading away like a passing emotional high. The changes initiated throughout these 48 hours are not temporary impressions. They become structural shifts that continue unfolding long after this weekend has passed. Consider the remarkable pattern that has formed. 3 outer planets. 3 powerful aspects. One continuous sequence unfolding across only 48 hours. Mars becomes the active messenger carrying the evolutionary intentions represented by Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto directly into the circumstances of your own life. Instead of these distant planetary forces remaining abstract ideas in the heavens, they become personal experiences expressed through your choices, your awareness, your relationships, your conversations, and the direction your future begins taking. Configurations of this magnitude are exceptionally uncommon, which is precisely why this brief window deserves to be recognized, not as an isolated astrological event, but as a defining turning point, whose effects can continue echoing for years to come. Before you dismiss this as another dramatic astrological moment, pause and consider how rarely the heavens arrange themselves in a pattern like the one unfolding now. The alignment taking shape over these next moments is not something that repeats every few years. The last time Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were linked through this exact geometric sequence while receiving activation from a rapidly moving inner planet, the overwhelming majority of people alive today had not even entered this world. That fact alone should tell you that this is not ordinary cosmic weather. It is the kind of celestial signature that marks the beginning of entirely new chapters, both collectively and personally. The timing makes the message even louder. Today is July 4th, 2026, a date already carrying enormous historical meaning before a single planet entered position. It is the 250th anniversary of the United States, and on this exact day, the most explosive conjunction of the year unfolds in the sky. Mars joins Uranus, while Uranus occupies Gemini, the very same zodiac sign it occupied when the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. This is far more than an interesting coincidence. Astrology recognizes recurring cycles because history repeatedly reveals that certain planetary rhythms correspond with moments of profound transformation. Uranus is the archetype of revolution, disruption, awakening, and radical change. Whenever it returns to Gemini within the American story, the nation encounters circumstances that permanently redefine its identity. The first return coincided with the Revolutionary War, the struggle that gave birth to the Republic itself. The second return unfolded alongside the Civil War, the most devastating conflict fought on American soil, a period that fractured the country before reshaping it into something fundamentally different. The third return accompanied the era of the Second World War, including Pearl Harbor and the arrival of the atomic bomb, events that transformed America's position on the global stage forever. Now Uranus has entered Gemini once again, and on the nation's 250th birthday, Mars ignites that placement with an exact conjunction. The historical rhythm speaks with unmistakable force. Whatever has been quietly building beneath the surface across politics, technology, and competing systems of belief is approaching a point where it can no longer remain hidden. Pressure seeks release, and the sky reflects that reality with extraordinary precision. Yet limiting this alignment to national events would overlook its deepest meaning. Astrology always operates across multiple layers at once. While collective history moves through one doorway, individual lives move through another. The same current influencing headlines also travels directly through personal experience, awakening changes that feel just as significant within the landscape of your own life. This is where the message becomes deeply personal. Because although every person will sense the vibration created by today's conjunction, 3 zodiac signs stand closest to the center of its impact. For these individuals, the coming days are unlikely to feel like subtle adjustments. Instead, they resemble the moment lightning flashes across a dark sky, revealing a landscape that had always been there but remained invisible until a single brilliant instant exposed everything. If you are an Aries, this message deserves your full attention because the alignment reaches directly into one of the most active areas of your chart. The conjunction falls within your 3rd house, the realm connected with communication, conversations, everyday interactions, learning, information, and the people who occupy your immediate environment. At the same time, Mars, the very planet activating this extraordinary sequence, is your ruling planet. That detail changes everything. Rather than observing this transit from a distance, you become one of its primary participants. The energy is not brushing against your horoscope. It is moving through your identity, your instincts, your decisions, and the way you experience the world around you. Prepare yourself, because something that has remained concealed is approaching the moment of revelation. It will not unfold through slow hints or careful explanations. The Uranian influence specializes in sudden exposure, Information arrives all at once. A conversation may reveal what has been happening outside your awareness. A hidden motivation carried by someone close to you may finally become impossible to ignore. You could recognize that a relationship you believed rested upon honesty has contained important truths that were never fully shared. The exact form this revelation takes will differ from one Aries to another, yet one characteristic remains consistent across every possibility. When Uranus acts, uncertainty disappears with astonishing speed. What was once confusing becomes undeniable. Yet the greatest transformation does not come from uncovering the truth itself. The true breakthrough begins with your response after that discovery arrives. During this same period, Neptune in Aries forms an exact sextile with Mars from your first house, the house governing your identity, your sense of self, and the way you move through life. This beautiful connection introduces another layer to the experience. Alongside the shock comes remarkable intuitive awareness. Your mind will not be forced to analyze every detail before understanding what is real. Instead, certainty rises from somewhere much deeper. You recognize the truth almost instantly. Your instincts become unusually trustworthy. You sense the right words before speaking them. You understand exactly where healthy boundaries belong. You recognize which relationships deserve continued investment and which have quietly consumed your energy without giving anything meaningful in return. The conversations unfolding throughout this weekend carry consequences extending well beyond the present moment. Some connections may naturally reach their conclusion, while entirely unexpected relationships begin opening new paths before you. Although those changes may initially feel uncomfortable, resisting them only delays the freedom this alignment is trying to deliver. Allow yourself to speak with honesty instead of hiding behind convenience. Allow your authentic voice to replace the version of yourself that has remained silent simply to preserve temporary peace. Once you acknowledge what has been revealed, returning to old illusions will no longer be possible. The clarity you receive cannot be unseen, and that is precisely its gift. Temporary discomfort created by truth always leads toward genuine freedom, while temporary comfort built upon deception inevitably demands a far greater price in the future. If there is one message you cannot afford to ignore today, it is this one. The energy moving across the sky is not simply passing through your life. For you, Gemini, it is becoming part of who you are. Among every zodiac sign, none stands closer to the center of this extraordinary alignment than you. This is not an overstatement. The exact conjunction between Mars and Uranus occurs at 3 degrees and 52 minutes of Gemini, directly within your first house. The place that governs your identity, your physical presence, your personal expression, and the way you meet the world. This means the transformation taking place is not happening around you. It is unfolding through you. Imagine yourself standing at the point where a powerful current first touches the Earth. That is the role you occupy during this transit. The immense force generated by this conjunction enters the collective through the very themes that define your life, making your own awakening inseparable from the larger awakening taking place around you. Looking back over the past several days, you have probably sensed that something unusual has already begun. Perhaps you have struggled to settle your thoughts. Perhaps your mind has raced from one realization to another without pause. Perhaps an invisible pressure has seemed to build beneath your skin, leaving you restless even during moments that should have felt calm. Those sensations are not random. They are your nervous system responding to an approaching wave of change before the exact conjunction fully arrives. Earlier, there was mention of a hidden reason behind this strange electrical feeling that has followed you throughout the week. Now the picture becomes clear. Mercury, your ruling planet, is currently retrograde in Cancer, occupying your second house, the area associated with personal values, self-worth, security. and the way you measure your own importance. Because Mercury rules Gemini, it also serves as the ruler of this powerful conjunction, creating an unmistakable bridge between your identity and deep emotional patterns that have remained unresolved for far too long. Old questions about your value, old experiences that quietly taught you to seek approval, old habits of shrinking yourself so others could remain comfortable. All of these themes now rise to the surface together. The conjunction between Mars and Uranus does not politely ask whether you are prepared to release them. Its purpose is immediate transformation. It breaks apart whatever has outlived its purpose. Every role you accepted simply to fit into someone else's expectations. Every compromise that slowly distanced you from your authentic nature. Every carefully constructed version of yourself designed to avoid conflict or preserve harmony becomes unstable under today's energy. You may feel inspired to completely change your appearance. You may suddenly recognize that your current career no longer reflects who you have become. You may speak words with such honesty and emotional clarity that even you are surprised by your own courage. The external expression differs from one Gemini to another, but the underlying process remains identical. By the time this weekend concludes, you are unlikely to recognize the version of yourself that entered it. This is not because you have invented a brand new identity. It is because the false layers accumulated through years of adaptation are finally falling away. Beneath them has always existed a more genuine version of you, one that is fearless, expressive, intellectually alive, and impossible to contain. That original self is now stepping forward without apology. Once that happens, there is no returning to the smaller identity you once believed was necessary. The people around you may need time to adjust to the authenticity they suddenly encounter, but your own soul has been preparing for this moment far longer than you realize. Trust what is emerging, because the person the world is about to meet is the person you were always meant to become. Now the focus shifts towards Scorpio, where an equally profound transformation is preparing to unfold beneath the surface. Few signs understand hidden emotional landscapes the way you do. You have always recognized that the deepest truths rarely announce themselves openly. Instead, they develop quietly beneath appearances until the moment arrives when they can no longer remain concealed. That moment has now arrived. Today's conjunction between Mars and Uranus activates your 8th house, the realm governing intimacy, shared resources, psychological depth, power dynamics, transformation, and every invisible bond that shapes your life behind the scenes. This territory is naturally familiar to you, yet today's alignment demands that you experience it from an entirely different perspective. Mars holds the role of your traditional ruler, while Pluto, now traveling through Aquarius, serves as your modern ruler. By the morning of July 5th, Mars completes an exact trine with Pluto, bringing the entire sequence of planetary activations into completion through the formation of the minor grand trine. This detail carries enormous significance, because every planetary force connected with Scorpio's evolution becomes active at the same time. Rather than receiving a simple moment of insight, you are entering a profound breakthrough that reaches the deepest and most protected layers of your emotional world. Somewhere within your life exists an attachment that has quietly continued long after it stopped supporting your growth. It may exist within a romantic relationship. It may involve financial obligations that gradually weakened your independence. It may take the form of an emotional pattern sustained through guilt, control, obligation, or the persistent belief that letting go would leave you unable to survive what comes next. Whatever form it has taken, today's Uranian energy is prepared to break that invisible chain. At first, such a release may feel unsettling, because few signs appreciate stability and strategic control as deeply as Scorpio. Yet it is important to understand that this process is not driven by meaningless destruction. The exact trine between Mars and Pluto guarantees that whatever leaves your life creates space for something stronger, more genuine, and more fully aligned with the person you are becoming. The collapse of outdated structures is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of living without carrying burdens that no longer belong to your future. And once this deeper truth reveals itself, you will recognize that what initially appeared to be loss was actually the doorway to a far greater form of personal power. When a relationship is rooted in authenticity, mutual freedom, emotional honesty, and a shared willingness to grow, this powerful transit is not designed to tear it apart. Instead, it becomes the force that removes every remaining barrier between two people. You may experience an unexpected moment of emotional openness. One conversation, one realization, or one exchange that suddenly allows both of you to recognize each other with a depth that previously seemed impossible. The connection becomes stronger because nothing meaningful has to remain hidden anymore. But relationships built upon fear, silent manipulation, emotional dependence, obligation, or the comforting illusion that security matters more than truth, cannot remain untouched under this sky. Uranus has no interest in preserving what limits your evolution, and Mars supplies the courage necessary to act once the truth becomes impossible to deny. If a bond has quietly been draining your spirit instead of strengthening it, this alignment provides the decisive moment when you finally release it with your own hands. Scorpio, this is the lesson standing directly before you. Lasting strength cannot be created by sacrificing your inner freedom simply to maintain the appearance of control. Real power begins the moment you choose honesty over emotional imprisonment. Even if embracing that truth completely transforms the foundation of your closest relationships, it remains the path your soul has been preparing for. Beneath every hesitation, beneath every attempt to delay the inevitable, a deeper part of you has already recognized what must happen. This awareness did not suddenly appear today. It has been quietly developing for months, waiting for the precise moment when the universe would no longer allow avoidance to feel comfortable. Today marks that moment. The invitation has become impossible to ignore, and everything that follows grows from the decision you make now. Yet the conjunction itself is only the beginning of the story. Powerful alignments like this do not disappear once the exact aspect passes. Their influence continues unfolding long after the initial impact, extending throughout the remainder of the month as each subsequent planetary movement builds upon the last. On July 6th, only 2 days after the conjunction, the Sun forms a square with Saturn. If today's conjunction resembles the flash of lightning that suddenly illuminates the landscape, this square resembles the first morning that follows, when inspiration must become action. The universe quietly asks a different question. Now that you have seen the truth, are you willing to live according to it? Saturn represents discipline, responsibility, structure, and long-term commitment. The revelations arriving during this extraordinary weekend will naturally encounter tests. Those challenges are not punishments. They are opportunities to strengthen what has genuinely changed. A realization that disappears under pressure was never true transformation. Lasting breakthroughs reveal their value by remaining stable when life demands consistency. The following day, on July 7th, Neptune stations retrograde in Aries, introducing an entirely new layer to the unfolding process. This marks the beginning of a profound spiritual examination. Neptune retrograde gradually dissolves illusions that have quietly influenced perception without being recognized. If any part of your recent awakening depended upon wishful thinking rather than genuine truth, this retrograde slowly uncovers the difference. On the other hand, if your breakthrough emerged from authentic self-awareness, Neptune's retrograde journey deepens your understanding, allowing you to recognize why every event unfolded exactly as it did. The wisdom becomes clearer with time, rather than fading away. One final detail completes the larger picture. Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, and therefore the ruler of this entire conjunction, remains retrograde in Cancer until July 23rd. That timing is significant because it means the emotional processing, the mental integration, and the complete understanding of everything initiated during this remarkable weekend do not happen overnight. Nearly 3 weeks are required for the experience to settle into full awareness. At first, many of the events may seem disconnected. Certain conversations, decisions, emotional reactions, and unexpected revelations may feel like scattered fragments without an obvious pattern. Gradually, those pieces begin fitting together, much like remembering a dream, one image at a time, until the complete story finally becomes unmistakable. By late July, what once appeared random reveals remarkable precision. You recognize that nothing essential was removed without purpose. Every ending created room for the arrival of something that could never have entered while the old structures remained in place. The universe was not acting carelessly. It was clearing exactly what had completed its purpose, so that what truly belongs in your future could finally reach you. That understanding leads directly to the most important choice presented by this entire sequence. Planetary energy creates opportunity, but it never replaces personal responsibility. The difference between those who experience lasting transformation and those who remain trapped inside familiar cycles has very little to do with external circumstances. It depends upon the decisions made when change first appears. Today's energy carries tremendous intensity. It feels electric, unpredictable, and at times deeply uncomfortable. Your first instinct may be to dismiss what you are experiencing. You may convince yourself that the restless energy, the racing thoughts, the growing desire to change your life, or the sense that something significant is approaching, can all be explained away as stress, exhaustion, or ordinary distraction. Yet somewhere inside you, another voice already knows the truth. This moment is different. Alignments of this magnitude do not occur frequently. A Mars and Uranus conjunction unfolding within this specific configuration is uncommon by itself. The activation of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto across a single weekend represents a truly generational sequence. The fact that all of this coincides with the 250th anniversary of the United States, while Uranus occupies the same zodiac sign it held when the nation was founded, adds another extraordinary historical layer to the symbolism. Equally meaningful is the simple fact that you arrived here today. Out of countless videos and endless distractions, something drew your attention. Whether it was a title, an image, or a quiet feeling that encouraged you to stop scrolling, your presence here forms part of your own experience with this unfolding energy. Some people will encounter this powerful current and immediately resist it. They will cling to familiar routines because familiarity feels safer than growth, even when those routines quietly keep them trapped. Fear will persuade them that change arrives too quickly, asks too much, or threatens too much of what they already know. Weeks from now, they may wonder why life appears exactly the same, despite such extraordinary opportunities for transformation. Others will choose differently. They will speak truths they once believed they could never express, even if their voices tremble while doing so. They will release relationships, habits, beliefs, or identities that quietly exhausted them, even when letting go feels uncertain. They will trust that allowing an outdated version of themselves to dissolve is the only way something far more authentic can emerge. Those individuals will eventually look back on this weekend and recognize it as the unmistakable dividing line between an old life and a new one. The universe is not asking you to predict every outcome before taking the next step. It is asking whether you possess the courage to move while certainty has not yet fully arrived. That is the deeper meaning of Mars joining Uranus. It is the willingness to leap, because your soul recognizes the direction before your eyes can confirm the destination. Then, only after taking that step, comes the realization that the foundation supporting you had been there all along, hidden only by the limits of your previous perspective. Today is not simply another date on the calendar. It is a doorway separating who you have been from who you are becoming. Once you choose to cross that threshold, returning to your former life is no longer possible. The only decision remaining is whether you are ready to step forward. If you have stayed with me until this moment, thank you for sharing your time and attention. If this message resonated with you, and you would like to continue exploring future astrological insights together, I would truly appreciate your support by subscribing to the channel. I would also love to hear what this powerful period is bringing into your own life, so feel free to share your experiences and reflections in the comments. Until we meet again, take good care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.